Hello everyone, welcome to Raj IAS Academy. So as you all know, we have started this new initiative where we cover subject-wise current affairs segregated as per your UPSC examination. Today is Friday and I'm Drishti. Today we will be covering social issues topics that were in news in the past week, also a bit before that. And today we will be covering social issues topic that revolve around reproductive health of both men and women, right? So let's get started. Good afternoon Rahul, good afternoon Rohit, good afternoon Bapan. So I hope all of you have been revising the topics that we have covered earlier, and in continuation with the topics that we have covered last week, will move forward this week, right? So this is the index for today's topic. Our first topic is going to be Prohibition of Child Marriage Amendment Bill. This bill was tabled in Lok Sabha in 2021. Right now, the chairman of Rajya Sabha has given it a bit of extension. We are going to discuss how the bill evolved, what are the problems related to it, what does Unicef say, and what are the issues revolving around it. We are going to cover it very holistically, right? So any question you get in your exam, you are able to answer. Exam as in mains and both in interview as well, right? Our second topic is National AIDS and STD Control Program. We are going to discuss basic definition of how AIDS happens, what is AIDS, and what is the difference between HIV and AIDS, right? And India's strategy to eliminate it. We are in the 5th phase of this program. What government of India has done and what is the condition worldwide regarding this, right? Now our third topic for today is WHO has issued new guidelines for abortion, particularly safe abortion. There is a concept of telemedicine which has been introduced for the first time because of COVID. We are going to discuss that. What are the prospects of it, how abortion affects women and their health, right? So let's get towards our first topic. Why was this in news? As I told you, recently Rajya Sabha chairman has granted the bill a 3-month extension, right? And this bill was basically proposed on the recommendations of Jaya Jaitley committee. This is very important. Jaya Jaitley committee, please remember this, right? Prelims में भी direct question आ सकता है कि this bill was proposed on the recommendations of Jaya Jaitley committee. Options will be given and then you'll have to choose the answer, right? Second, you can be asked to write an answer around child marriages or women related issues. In our previous week's video, I've already told you how important is women's issues. In the PDF, you must have gotten the questions in the beginning, how many questions UPSC has asked related to women's issues, right? So let's get started. First of all, how UNICEF defines child marriage, right? Child marriage refers to the union of any formal union between a child under the age of 18 with an adult or another child, right? Our SDG goal, Sustainable Development Goal, our old friend, what UN has said is our goal is to eliminate child marriage by 2030 completely, right? So this is very important. Please remember this. As we are approaching towards year 2030, it is very important for us to know how far ahead we are there with the targets and how much work has to be done so as to achieve them, right? Vivek Garg, good afternoon. I hope all of you have tuned in timely so that you have not missed the topic, right? Now ending child marriage, why is it important? UNICEF says it is important because it reduces their exposure to violence. Recently, National Family Health Survey happened, the 5th one, and National Family Health Survey in India, the 5th one says still in India around 52% of women find that it is okay for their partners or any male person, male superior person in their family to hit them, to abuse them. So this explains the dire situation of how repressed the women section of our society is, right? So abuse and violence, UNICEF says it reduces their exposure to violence as it enables them to take decisions for themselves, right? It allows girls to become active members of the society, how we are going to discuss in the slides ahead, right? It reduces their health risks as they are unable to understand their body more comprehensively as they mature. It keeps girls in school, it does not hamper with their education, and it helps break the cycles of poverty. There is always a Marxist angle to it, right? So Marx has been very instrumental in deciding the social issues. He has a view on everything, so we'll try covering this as well, right? So what are the aims of the bill? See, the in India, the prevention of child marriage has been active in some form or the other since 1900s, right? It began with the Sharda Act. If you remember, if you don't, please study, it's important. Even within regard to this act, it is important how the evolution took place, right? So the age, the legal age for women to marry is 18 years and the legal age for men to marry is 21 years. But now the act aims to raise it to 21 for both men and women. Basically, why? To prevent the abuse of minors, right? Because in when you're 18, you're still in your teenage, you are unable to make decisions for yourself. So this is the basic aim, right? And the bill amends Prohibition of Child Marriage Act of 2006. There are a couple of more acts that will have to be amended if this becomes the law, right? These are the acts that will be amended. Let's quickly go through them. What will be the acts? What are the acts? It is Indian Christian Marriage Act of 1872. Then there is Parsi Marriage and Divorce Act of 1936, Special Marriage Act of 1954, Hindu Marriage Act of 1955 and Foreign Marriage Act of 1969, right? And as I told you, SDG goal hai by 2030, sorry about that, by 2030 we have to eliminate child marriage, and hence governments not only just in India but worldwide are working really hard towards it. India along with 5 countries comprises for maximum number of child brides in the world. The countries are Bangladesh, Brazil, Ethiopia, India and Nigeria, right? So these countries basically from India and Africa make up for the maximum number of child brides all around the world and makes the very destitute section of the society, right? Let's move forward. So what are the proposals that have been proposed in this act? Garima Jain, please Hindi. Yeah, Garima, see, I'll try बीच में मैं Hindi बोलूँ, but majority of people they are comfortable with English, so we'll try sticking. मैं कोशिश करूँगी बीच में हिंदी बोलूँ. Very good afternoon to you, right? So Prohibition of Child Marriage Act क्या बोलता है? Earlier the window for child who was married to file the complaint was 23 for man and 20 for women, but now we have brought a parity to it. if this becomes a law, दोनों की एज कितनी हो जाएगी? Both can file a complaint till after 5 years of completing 18 years of age, right? 18 years of age. Now there are a couple of more things that have come into limelight with this act. See, first is voidable child marriage. See, mostly the marriages are voidable as in they are not void but voidable. Voidable how? If court declares that marriage is null and void. But now void marriage in legal terms would mean that marriage never existed, it never took place. So this is a very important aspect of this law, right? And the third and very important aspect is introduction of a notwithstanding clause. What does a notwithstanding clause say? See, India does not have a uniform civil code. Uniform civil code is article, I hope you remember basic articles. India does not have a uniform civil code, and even for marriages we have various different acts for different sections of society. Like we have Hindu Marriage Act, we have Sharia law, then there is Parsi Marriage Act, right? So because we have different laws for different communities, we do not have a uniform law. But when it comes to child marriage, there is going to be a notwithstanding clause. Child marriage will be a crime and punishable by law for all the communities uniformly altogether. Right, now let's discuss a couple of more things. Any doubts? Okay, right. So now the age of marriage was increased from 16 to 18 in 1978, right? It was increased in 1978. The basic objective was to provide better opportunities for women for education and improve their health. Our basic agenda was better infant mortality ratio and maternal mortality ratio, right? जो हमने last week भी video discuss करी थी, which revolved around maternal health. We have discussed these concepts in detail. If you haven't seen them, please go through it, right? These are very important. Then there was a concept of TFR, total fertility rate. India's goal is 2.1%, right? And the National Family Health Survey 5th, which happened in 2019-2021, has brought out that in India still the child marriages are prevalent to a very large extent, and the percentage that is there is 23%, right? This speaks highly about our society. Since the laws have been in place ever since 1900s, we are still struggling with this problem. So something has to be done about it, right? Now what are the arguments in favor of passing this bill, right? First, marriage and voting rights are not the same. Marriage age was set up for 18 years. You can vote when you're 18, but vote is something you can cast every 5 years, right? But marriage is, particularly in case of India, it is for life, usually in majority cases. So you cannot change your decision. The age bar 18 was set because of Law Commission's report. So this argument is given that we have to increase the age so that women can understand, have a better understanding of themselves and what kind of partner they want. It won't hamper with their education, right? And they'll have a time for building their career, so they can make independent decisions on their own. Third point is, it is going to be applicable to all communities, so there is not going to be any discrimination, and this menace can be eradicated from our society altogether, right? This will help in stopping the malpractices that are associated with it, particularly the dowry and other related issues which we are going to discuss further, right? So here is an infographic. Many states, child marriages they are taking place in many states, but particularly the incidence of child marriages is very, very high in Rajasthan. This has been a continuous state of affairs. So Rajasthan government is working really, really hard in this direction. Let's hope when census of 2022 comes out, let's hope census happens as soon as possible. We'll know more about it then. Now, what are the reasons that are given for child marriages, right? Why child marriages are still happening after these many years? Let's discuss. The first and foremost reason is patriarchy. Patriarchy, also known as male dominance in the society, right? Patriarchy is the chief reason why still child marriages are happening, because here the male head of the family decides what a woman, whether it is their daughter, their niece, is supposed to do, how her life is going to be, how her life will unfold in next couple of years or for the lifetime. That is decided by one particular person. And when patriarchy comes into play, there are a couple of factors that are impacted. What are these couple of factors? These factors are her sexuality, her reproductive choices, social interactions, her dressing sense, education, healthcare, nutrition, right? Moreover, patriarchy also sees this as economic feasibility. Men still, the heads of the family, they still feel it is better saving up for dowry purposes, even though Dowry Prohibition Act has been active since 1961. But still it is felt that it is better to save up for dowry rather than investing in education, right? So this is one particular reason. Now, other factors are poverty or large family. See, if there are multiple number of children, the parents have to decide and have to provide for multiple children. Just to get rid of that responsibility of their hands, they decide to marry off children at a very young age so that they can be free of those responsibilities, right? Then there are old traditions that have been in practice, which are redundant in today's era, are still going on. Why? Because they have become a cultural practice and nobody questions them. So this is one of the major reasons that child marriage is still prevalent. Then there is a lack of awareness in education. People, particularly if you go to secluded places, especially in your tribal areas, the tribal communities, there is a lack of awareness how about the laws, that it is punishable. This comes as a natural course to them, right? Also, the unavailability of education, and they have not been acquainted with how far women have come and how far the ways of the world have evolved, right? So, lack of awareness and education also counts for one of the major reasons. Then there is a concept of biological clock. See, in many communities, women are just married because they are seen as childbearing machines, right? So there is a concept of biological clock. So as women are married at an early age, even before they bleed, just to get into the process of early childbearing, and so that they can give birth to maximum number of children possible, right? This also accounts for the surrogative practices, surrogacy, right? Then there is a sort of insecurity in people who come from different generation altogether, that if a girl reaches certain age, right? If she is old enough, she is not going to find a proper match, and then there are going to be n number of problems related to it, because an unmarried woman, a single woman, is still considered a stigma, right? Women not getting married at a certain age, it is still considered that she did not find a suitable match. People, they still don't understand. It might be that it is her choice. Then there is one reason of high disaster incidence population, right? For example, there's a war going on in Ukraine right now. See, so if a family in Ukraine has some relatives in Europe, right, and they feel like their children are not safe in Europe, just to provide them a better situation or better life, they will marry their daughters off to the family they know in Europe, right? So because of war-like situation or disasters, whether man-made or natural, high rate of child marriages, they take place. Then another very important reason is trafficking. Children getting married at a very young age is a huge part of sex trafficking and human trafficking cartels, right? They just show that they have married off young children, and then they are involved, they are pushed towards prostitution, or they are taken advantage of in human organ trade, right? So these are the problems that these are the reasons why child marriages are prevalent and their significant consequences. This is the infographic. I've taken it from Indian Express. It came a couple of years ago, but it is still relevant. It still shows Rajasthan on the top of it, right? Please go through it. And there was an article about how this act is functioning by Uma Mahadevan. She is a lovely IAS officer. So it was a very informative article. If you want, you can go through it, right? You'll get this infographic in your PDFs. So then you can study how things have evolved, what was the condition before, and how things are progressing now, right? Now, let's come to the international conventions, right? 1962 Convention on Consent to Marriage, minimum age for marriage and registration of marriages, right? This is a treaty drafted by UN, and it specifies a minimum marriage age by statute law to override your customary and tribal laws. But India has not ratified it. India is not a signatory to this law. Please remember, India is not signatory. India has not signed it. India has not ratified it. But ये जो UN का ये वाला convention है, CEDAW, which we discussed in our previous video as well, India has ratified this. This is a statute by law in India, and hence it is legally binding, right? So technically, eliminating child marriage is a legal obligation for India, right? Now, what are the concerns why this law is being seen as a problem, right? First and foremost reason is this is being seen as an violation to Article 25 of the Constitution. What is Article 25 of the Constitution? I hope you know it. Please, you can also mention in comments. Good afternoon, Praveen Dubey. Good afternoon, Varda. I hope you guys have tuned in timely, right? There is a possible misuse of law in violation with Article 25. See, if you take example of Sharia, women, they are considered to be adult or to be able to be married off by the age they attain, by the time they attain the age of 15 years, right? So, this is in direct contradiction with when you are setting up the age of 21 years, right? एक तो ये, दूसरा, this law can be disastrous if there are false people, right? So this is one major concern. Also, this is seen sort of as interference with people's personal religious and cultural practices. So this is a major issue that has been raised by activists and people all around. Then this is also said to be a probable cause for disempowerment of women. How? Because if you are setting the age of getting someone married to be 21 years, you're sort of taking that choice from them, right? So even this is seen as a sort of paternalistic or patriarchal setup, where you are taking that choice, individual choice away, whether and when they want to get married or not. So this is seen as disempowerment of women. Also, this will be causing a huge impact on the marginalized groups of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, how we have discussed them earlier. Then this is going to cause a huge impact on possible sex selective practices of female feticide and female infanticide, right? So these are the major concerns that have been revolving around this law. Now, what are the repercussions, what are the consequences of early child marriage? See, poverty. There is poverty is a cycle that has been going on. You marry off your child because you're poor and because she is uneducated, she isn't able to provide herself or her family. Also, it impacts her health in a huge manner, right? So poverty becomes a endless loop, right? Then it raises the question of inequality, because women come at and disadvantage from men. So this becomes a topic, concern of inequality. Then there is issue of HIV and AIDS, also sexually transmitted diseases. This has resulted into many fatalities and deaths all around the world, right? Now, education, there has been a huge amount of school dropout rates, because parents, they prefer not to educate the girl child but to marry her off. So women have to leave their education and start a family, right? Then there is health issue. So because women are married off at a very early age, they are involved in intercourse, and then they have to sort of, even under pressure, they have to bear child even when they are not ready. So it has an impact on their mental as well as their physical health, right? So this results in an increased amount of child stunting and possible miscarriages, a lot of them, ultimately which impacts health and nutrition and the generations ahead. Then as I said, National Family Health Survey mein we have seen that a lot of violence and abuse has been going on. When you marry off a child to an adult, obviously he has an upper hand over child, because child is not developed that much emotionally, mentally, psychologically, right? So this leads to a disastrous consequence. Here is another infographic. Unicef has been working really hard to eliminate child marriages, particularly in Islamic countries of Africa and Asia. Also, there is a huge prevalence of child marriages in India. So we cannot just target one part of the world, right? So if there is an increased rate of school dropout, there is going to be high rate of poverty. We have discussed there is going to be a disrupted emotional and psychological development. Then they'll be prone to domestic violence, and there can be complications during pregnancy because they are not ready to bear the child yet but forced to do so. And babies who are born to teenage mothers who themselves are not properly healthy have a huge rate of mortality rates, right? These are a couple of reports that I've mentioned. NCRB, National Crime Records Bureau, has given this violence data, right? You can go through them. These basically put them so that you can quote them in your exams, right? There was National Family Health Survey where it states around 23% of women were married before age 18. So even now, the marriages after these many years, even though the law has been set up for the age of 18, women were still married off before 18 years. So एक important question also arises is, people who cannot wait till 18 years of age, will they wait till 21 years of age? So this is food for thought, right? Then there was a study by World Bank which shows there has been significant gains from raising age of marriage for women and in their decision making and helping them find jobs, right? So then there was a report by International Center for Research on Women, right? This has said that women who are in school, they have comparatively lesser rate of getting married as compared to women, children who do not go to school, right? Then there was this report by UNFPA. This report says in India around 51% of young women with no education or a couple of them with primary education were married by age of 18 as compared to around 29% of young women with secondary education, right? Were met. Now, this is our old friend, Sustainable Development Goals. I hope you have memorized this by now, right? Please tell me the issue of women health, reproductive health is in line with which of the Sustainable Development Goals? This is where good health, this is clear and evident, right? Now, 10th, reduced inequalities. बाकी जितने SDGs हैं, please try to correlate and please let me know, right? Now, what is the way forward? What can be done to eliminate this evil practice, right? First is expansion of secondary education. See, secondary education is your higher education. When you give proper higher education to women, they have the ability to make an informed choice, right? So first point is, you have to enable them, you have to give them proper resources and education. Then they have to have access to safe and affordable public transport system so that they do not face the problems of eve teasing, stalking, etc. They feel safe and secure so that they complete their education, right? There is not just one hindrance, there are multiple hindrances why women are unable to complete their educations, right? Now, the other point is, we need support of young women. We need to provide young women support so that they can earn their livelihood, so that they can convert their education in a means to earn their livelihood, right? Now, again, we have to provide community engagement programs like Mahila Samkhya. Mahila Samkhya was a program that was started in 1980s, right? It was basically formed for the extreme rural areas where women formed groups and they certainly worked in the areas of upliftment. upliftment in the areas of education, health, forming groups and helping each other out, right? Then your field bureaucrats who are working in the field, they can take up individual projects, they can involve the gram panchayats, the pradhans, right? And with their coordination and collaboration, a lot of things can be done to eliminate this practice. Then your one another major point, which major way that can be implemented is decentralizing birth and marriage registration to gram panchayats, right? If we do this, a lot of child marriages that are happening can be prevented. Okay, I hope this topic is clear. If you have any doubts, please let me know. Now let's come to our second topic. Our second topic is National AIDS and STD control program. STD refers to sexually transmitted diseases, right? In our previous video, we discussed about menstruation. This video, we are going to talk about AIDS and STD. Okay. So why this topic was in news? This topic was in news. Because Union Cabinet has recently approved the continuation of National AIDS and STD control program. This is a central sector scheme. Central sector scheme is the important word. Why? Because this means it is 100% implemented and funded by government, central government, and run by the agencies, right? State government has no role in it. Okay. Now, this is the phase 5th of the program. This was the phase 1 was implemented in around 1992. Ever since then, this program has been implemented and extended further by a couple of years, because this has been a huge success. Even if you see it at the world level, if you compare it at what the various governments of world nations have been doing, India has stood as an example, because this has worked immensely well as a model of helping out the citizens of your country. Right, now let us understand what HIV is. Right, first how this evolved. See, this evolved in Central Africa, and it started because of interaction with chimpanzees. In chimpanzees, it is known as SIV. SIV refers to simian immunodeficiency virus. So around 1800s, if you track back the record, this has been continuing since 1800s, when humans, they either hunted down chimpanzees or ate their meat, or some sort of blood exchange happened during this process. This virus led to the formation of HIV. Right, so HIV refers to human immunodeficiency virus, and it attacks body's immune system. There are a particular group of white blood cells called CD4. Right, CD4 are the white blood cells. Your HIV attacks these white blood cells, and the purpose of these particular white blood cells is to see any sort of anomaly in your bloodstream. But when HIV attacks these, they are unable to perform their function, and hence the immunity of your body drops to an extreme level. Okay, so if HIV is not treated, then it leads to the formation of AIDS. AIDS is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Right, HIV is still containable. If you have HIV, there are certain medications and practices which can still contain the spread of virus to your body, and you can still lead a healthy, happy life. But AIDS, in case of AIDS, death is bound to happen. It is fatal, right? Now, for HIV, there is currently no effective cure. If you have HIV, you have it for life. This is the infographic showing the differences between HIV and AIDS, right? It invades your immunity system. This is the last stage, right? With HIV, you have minor symptoms, but with AIDS, there are extreme signs of the reduction, the deterioration in your immunity levels, and ultimately death follows. Now, let's see how HIV is transmitted. First is unprotected sex. If you're not having safe sex practices, this is the prime cause, the major cause of HIV and AIDS. Then drug addicts who use same needles for the injection of drugs. Same needle when it is used by multiple people, one who is HIV positive and one who is negative. If they use the same needle, there is a huge chance of transmission of disease. Then there is blood transfusion. If HIV positive person, he donates blood to someone in need but who's HIV negative, then the disease is bound to transfer. Also, this happens during organ transplants. See, the legal organ transplants are there where certain legal measures are followed, tests are done, but where trafficking happens, there are certain dark areas, dark illegal places where organ transplant happens. There is a huge chance of HIV transmission. Then during pregnancy, if the mother is HIV positive, there is 99% chance that the baby will get infected too because of the umbilical cord, right? Then the non-sterile instruments. Also, this includes the instruments in barber's shop. See, any sort of fluid exchange, if it is taking place, particularly majorly happens with this and blood transfusions. This is bound to result into HIV transmission. This is how HIV does not take place, does not get transmitted by shaking hands, touching each other, by through food, eating food together. See, there is a certain stigma attached to it. People sort of discriminate HIV positive people. So we have to understand these are the reasons, by these means HIV is not transferred, right? Kissing, insect bites, and if you take a dip in common swimming pools with them, even then HIV does not transmit. Now, initial stages, these are the symptoms that happen during HIV. You have swollen lymph nodes, you have night sweats, mouth ulcers, fatigue, you have chills, then muscle aches, rashes and fever, right? Even in the case of AIDS, it happens in 3 stages. There is acute symptoms, clinical latency and severe symptoms. You can see them, all of them in PDF in detail, how it impacts what. This is for your mains exams. This is not relevant for your prelims exam. So, please go through them in the PDF. Now, there was a survey that was done and it showed that with the baseline year of, with the baseline year of 2010, India has shown a commendable progress if you compare it with the world data, right? India has declined HIV infections by 41% when the global average is 31%, right? As I told you, phase 1 was initiated in 1992 with the launch of initial first phase of AIDS and STD control program in India. These were the initiatives that have recently been taken post 2014. These are HIV AIDS Prevention and Control Act of 2017, Test and Treat Policy. There has been universal viral load testing, then Mission Sampark. There have been a couple of community based programs, then a transition to DBT regimen, and there has been ART. ART has been detrimental in preventing the spread of HIV and from turning it into AIDS, right? And India has been one of the most successful models all around the world of people who have HIV, people who have HIV, existing with HIV, to lead a normal life with the mainstream population, right? Now, as we have discussed, your SDG 3.3, SDG 3.3 is the total elimination of HIV and AIDS from the world, right? Now, your phase 5 program is in line with the Sustainable Development Goal 3.3, and the package includes prevention, detection and treatment services, right? So, this has been the government initiatives so far. Please go through them once. This has been NACP. Then there has been Indian Medical Councils Act of 1956 and the regulations of 2002. Okay, then Immoral Trafficking and Prevention Act. As I told you, a lot of HIV infections happen because of illegal human trafficking, right? Then there was a bill in 2017 about it. Then Mission Sampark, and there was 90-90-90 strategy. This is very important. इसमें ना UPSC पे question आ चुका है already. I hope you know about it. If you don't, please read about it. Then there was Project Sunrise. Project Sunrise was started particularly with it was launched for northeastern states, 8 northeastern states, and we already discussed it, the golden triangle thing, in our video of Manipur, Meitei community की जो हमने discuss करी थी. So in northeast has a very high incidence of drug addict problem. So because there is a huge amount of drug addiction there, the HIV problem has also risen over there. So Mission Project Sunrise was implemented in those 8 states to combat the issue of AIDS and HIV, right? Then there was a resolution 75/260 of United Nations General Assembly. It spoke about the policies of governments all over the world, right? Dr. Harshvardhan, our health minister, he was there to address India, right? And this particular convention, resolution, it speaks about social contracting, legal framework and providing, sorry about that, providing legal framework, free treatment and providing free treatment to your citizens, right? Then there is this organization that has been in news from a very long time. They have been working tremendously in the field of AIDS and tuberculosis. It is GFATM, right? They have collaborated with the governments worldwide to eliminate and eradicate this problem, right? Now, what are the issues related to HIV? First is the stigma and discrimination, because people, they do not understand how HIV AIDS works, if or whether it is fatal or not. People, they are sort of scared away of infected people, so there is a certain sort of taboo attached to it. So this is one of the key issues. Then people who live in remote areas. They do not have A, access to proper healthcare facilities, B, proper education. So these people are at a disadvantage, right? There is no awareness about the issue, how it is spread, so they are unable to protect themselves. Then migration is a huge factor. People who have migrated from one place to another, see, I already told you the problem started in Central Africa and today it is spread all throughout the world. So people who have migrated from there have brought diseases. Because they were infected, they have brought diseases with themselves to their home territories, right? So migration is a big issue. Then people, they are unaware about ART, the regimen which you can follow if you have HIV, so that it does not aggravate to AIDS, right? Then there are vulnerability factors that are into play, particularly like poverty, illiteracy, and the sorry state of the women section, the suppressed state of the women section of the society, and for that we have been constantly pushing for women empowerment, right? And your this HIV AIDS, this is not the part of your mainstream line of healthcare facilities. So this is one major issue. So we have to make this a part of public healthcare activities so that it can be taken into account. Now, what is the way forward? How can we address this issue? So we have to provide prevention and control of HIV and care and support to the people who are suffering with it. See, they are already in a lot of pain. If we discriminate it, they'll feel humiliated and alienated. So we have to provide them proper care and support, side by side protecting ourselves, right? So that the infections does not multiply. There should be a huge investment in research and development so that we can find a cure to it. Till now, HIV has no cure. If you have HIV, you have it for life, right? Then the IPC section, there is a issue revolving around it related to transgenders, LGBTQA plus community, right? So this has to be addressed. This is currently not in news, but whenever there is further any development in news regarding to this section, IPC section 377, we are going to discuss in detail what are the problems and issues related to it. Then we have to follow targeted intervention. For example, Karnataka government, they trained their policemen, both male and female police workforce, to handle the situations, how to address the problems of people, particularly the sex workers, how to provide them proper medical care and help to them. So Karnataka government has set an example, right? Safe sex practices have to be taught, because people, whether we like it or not like it, at a very early age are involved in sex practices, and just because there is not enough knowledge about it, their chances of infection, they increase to a huge level, right? This applies to basically illegal means of blood transfusions that happen, because if you go to a regular hospital, they take proper care before giving your blood to someone else. Proper tests are done, but during illegal blood transfusions and transactions, the chances of HIV infection are very high, right? Then there has to be a proper use of disposable needles and syringes, particularly in public hospitals. Private hospitals, they are comparatively very particular about it. They follow safe practices, but particularly in public hospitals, we have to make it sure that one syringe or one needle is used just once, right? We have to bring forward a policy where there is pre-distribution of condoms between amongst particularly the teenage section, because this group of sections, this section of people are most vulnerable to the menace of HIV. Then drug abuse, the problem of drug abuse has to be addressed. I already told you how in Project Sunrise, the people of Northeast, the youth of Northeast has become a victim of HIV AIDS. So this has to be addressed. Then regular checkups for HIV groups, HIV susceptible populations. This particularly comprises of people who are engaged in the work of prostitution and sex work, right? So regular checkups for these people has to be a mandatory thing, so that this does not get spread to others as well, right? Now let's come to our third topic for today. The third topic revolves around abortion. Why this is in news? WHO has released new guidelines about safe abortions, basically to protect health of women all around the world, right? There are a couple of laws that have been in place in many countries around the world that prohibit abortions. There has been a debate going on worldwide, and this forms an important part of your ethics paper, right? There are a certain questions of ethical dilemmas that are revolving around it. We are going to discuss them in detail, right? Now, first of all, let's see what abortion is. Abortion refers to deliberately terminating your pregnancy. Pregnancy, it comprises of two terms. First is your embryo and second is your fetus. Embryo is when when you've conceived, your baby is in the earliest development phase and it is before 8 weeks, right? Embryo is post 8 weeks of development till it takes the complete human form, right? So WHO, what it has said, that safe abortion is integral part of your necessary and essential healthcare practices, right? So this is what WHO has mandated to the countries all over the world, and because of unsafe and because the abortions still are taking place illegally, it has caused a huge impact on women all over the world. There are n number of infections that take place during abortions, and just in case the doctor is not trained, or there is a lot of bleeding out there, or there are complications involved, because it is a illegal trade, proper help cannot be provided and hence the woman loses her life. So a lot of death toll has been noticed all around the world, and WHO has come forward with mandatory guidelines for countries all over the world, right? Now, what are the guidelines? See, at simple primary care level, interventions have to be done. Interventions of how to improve the quality of abortion that can be provided to women and girls. How this can be provided? By task sharing of wider range of health workers and ensuring access to medical abortion pills, right? The most important part is accurate information, providing accurate information to them. And as I said in the beginning of the video, for the first time, appropriate use of telemedicine, which became prevalent during the time of your COVID-19 pandemic, particularly for family planning, has been made a part of these guidelines, right? Now, what has come into notice is removing medically unnecessary see, if you have made abortions illegal in a country, it does not stop people from women from getting their children aborted. They just get it done illegally. So that ultimately has an negative impact, right? It actually harms their health and their near and dear ones. So what WHO has recommended is the medically unnecessary policies such as criminalization or mandatory waiting period, or there are signatures that are required by your partner or your family members. See, if a woman has to get her pregnancy terminated, these are unwanted things, right? So WHO has recommended that we have to eliminate them, right? And there is a certain limit even in India till when you can eliminate your pregnancy, that has to be removed, right? The limits on when the pregnancy can be eliminated has to be removed. So this I have already told you. Restriction to abortions does not stop abortions, just makes them to happen in an illegal way, right? Now there are these couple of datas. Unsafe abortion, majority of them happens in Asia, that includes India, then Africa, Latin America, Northern, and the smallest portion happens in North America, right? Abortion rates are highest in low income countries, and these low income countries have the highest restrictions on abortions, right? Then these have been government initiatives. Government of India has taken these initiatives. You can go through them. First one is through National Health Mission. Then ASHA workers have been involved. Then we have given certification to governmental and non-governmental organization. There has been this tremendous beneficial step taken by Government of India of supply of Nishchay pregnancy detection kits, and then there has been Medical Termination of Pregnancy Amendment Act. There has been issues that have been revolving around this as well. We'll discuss this in future when there are developments regarding this act as well, but currently these are the initiatives that Government of India has taken. Okay, now let's discuss what are the reasons that are responsible for women getting their babies aborted. Education or employment. If a woman feels that right now having a baby or right now starting a family will hamper her education or employment, then she decides to terminate the baby. Lack of support from father if a woman is a single mother, because in India, whether we like it or not, extramarital and premarital sex does happen. So if there is a lack of support from father, the woman can choose to chooses to terminate the pregnancy if she is not ready to take that responsibility on her own, right? Then if a woman feels that the pregnancy was unplanned, she already has enough number of children and she wants to provide for her, care for her, and she does not want another child, then abortion happens. Then there is this constant stigma, constant problem of poverty, unemployment, and one important factor is inability to bear children. See, sometimes what happens is your body is incapable of carrying out the pregnancy. You have natural miscarriages. So because of medical complications, women, they decide to get the pregnancy terminated at early levels, right? Then if you have interrelation problems with your husband or partner, if you're married, your marriage is not going well, right? If you're living in a live-in relationship and you're not sure about it, so if you have these problems, you decide and you don't want to bring a baby into the world, then you go for abortion. If you feel like you're too young to have a child, particularly when you're a teenager, because nowadays everything has to be addressed. There are a lot of issues that have been revolving around teenage pregnancies as well. and major abortions, they do happen during teenage. So if you feel like you're too young to have a child, you decide to get your child aborted. Then there are sex selective practices. People who are driven by patriarchy, who only want male child in their houses, they go for female feticide. So that is a major problem. Although the detection of sex of an unborn child is illegal in India, but still it does happen illegally. So that is one of the major reasons. Right now, arguments that have been given in favor of abortion are: the woman has the right to her body and her life, so that automatically is forwarded to the fetus, and hence it is her right whether she wants the baby or not, right? Fetus is not a fully developed person yet, so you cannot compel someone to carry the full term of pregnancy, right? Sometimes the pregnancies are just unplanned. If you don't have an intention to have a baby, then this is the reason women have argued that they want the termination to happen. There is a cultural stigma attached to it of single mothers, of premarital sex. So if you're not married and you do get pregnant, then women, they have argued for allowing, see right now you have to ask permission. So women have asked for being allowed to terminate their pregnancy. Now there is a doctrine of double effect. This is what, when you are not ready physically and mentally to have a child, right? It impacts your physical and mental health. These days there is a burning topic of postpartum depression that has been happening. Women, they go into depression after having a baby because of hormonal changes. This has been a burning topic. I've discussed it earlier as well. So there is doctrine of double effect. Then because of medical complications, sometimes if your term gets ahead from your second trimester to your third trimester, there are medical complications, and it becomes a medical necessity to get your pregnancy terminated, right? So these are the arguments that have been given in favor of abortions. Now, what are the arguments that have been given against? See, first is, like, we have a future, you're not giving the fetus a chance to have a future, right? So you're not giving the chance to the baby to decide to have a future. So this is the major first argument that has been given. Second is, it's stated that killing people is wrong. The child, it has life. What develops biologically has a life. So the fetus is considered to be a person, and killing people is wrong. And third is religious side. See, in many religions and in many communities, children, even if they are born out of wedlock, if they are not the result of a married couple, even then it is said that they should not be aborted because they are God's gift. Particularly this has been a strong argument by Christianity. So this has been these three arguments have been put forward by people who are against the abortions, right? So now you know what are the factors that have come in favor for abortions and in against abortions, right? But there are a couple of other ethical dilemmas that revolve around it. I am not going to give you a solution for it because you have to form your own opinion. There are a couple of issues, ethical questions that arise. These are the questions, right? Is the fetus a person, really a person with rights? Does the woman actually have ethical obligations to the fetus? Then there is the question of, does abortion treat the fetus in unethical and callous way, right? Then there are ethics of personal bodily autonomy involved. Then there comes the question of, is it ethical to force a woman to carry a pregnancy to term when she does not want to do it, right? Then there is the ethics of consequence of sexual activity, right? As I said, unplanned pregnancies. Then does the woman have ethical obligations to the father? Because sometimes the woman does not want the child, but the father wants the child. So does the woman have ethical obligations to the father? Then the other question that arises is it ethical to give birth to an unwanted child? Is it healthy for a child? You don't want it, but you bring it into the world. Are you able to provide it with necessary care that it wants? So is it ethical? And then there is a debate that revolves around political versus religious debates, right? So these are the questions of ethical dilemmas that there are there, and this is your food for thought. Please think about them, form an opinion about them. This is all for today. I hope you understood the topics, right? If you have any doubts, please mention them in comments. And even if you want me to take up some topic, do mention it. I'll try covering it in my next video, right? Till then, keep watching, study hard. As I always say, prelims are just around the corner. Make yourselves proud, make us proud, and make your parents proud. Thank you so much. Keep watching and keep learning. Tomorrow, you're going to meet Akash sir with a couple of miscellaneous topics, very important topics. Do tune in at the same time. Okay, thank you so much.